You have an ICS Form 213, the general message that you need to get from one site to another, but you don't have direct contact. How can you get that message where it needs to go? You use radio relay. In this episode of Radio KD8TTE, we'll show you how to take the ICS Form 213 and turn it into, that is to say, encapsulate it in the radiogram so that it can be relayed reliably, accurately, and in a timely fashion from one site to another. Stick around. Radiogram. Let's open with a couple of myths. Here's 4 of my favorite. Number 1, the radiogram is not for emergency use. Just watch us. Number 2, you can't send a message of more than 25 words with a radiogram. Piffle. Number 3, using the radiogram means that you need to wait till the next scheduled NTS net, which might be a few hours or even tomorrow. You can't use that in an emergency operation. Absurd. Just try reading the manual. Number 4, NTS isn't for emergency communication. That's not just wrong, it's meta-wrong. It's a conclusion based upon several myths. Putting some formatted information like the contents of an ICS 213 into a radiogram is called encapsulation. We do it all the time without even thinking about it. You can't put an ICS 213 in the mail and expect for it to get delivered. You need to put it in an envelope. You can't just transmit it on the internet without context. You have to attach it to email, which is encapsulating inside the internet message format. If you send it via the web, it gets put into a hypertext transfer protocol, HTTP message. Radio circuits are no different. The radiogram is how you format a message for transmission by radio. That does not mean that you can't talk on the radio without a radiogram. Of course, if 2 operators are talking directly to one another, there's no reason for an intermediary format. The transmission format is needed to provide the details necessary for relay according to the originator's wishes and for expressing the quality of service requirements for the message. So what is an ICS Form 213? It's the Incident Command System's General Message Form. There are many standard forms used in the Incident Command System, each with a unique number to identify it. The General Message, ICS 213, is just a format to organize information on a piece of paper. It has places for identifying the incident being handled, the recipient of the message, and the sender of the message, as well as its subject, date, time, and message contents. And that's it. No definition of the means by which it should be delivered, how to relay it, or how long it has before it's no good anymore. In other words, it's a format that envisions everyone together physically able to work with the paper. It's the equivalent of a memo in your office. What is a radiogram? The radiogram is a message transmission format. It includes features to identify not only the person or organization sending and receiving the message, but it includes places for the stations used to send and receive messages, a serial number for tracking, and precedence, a means to express quality of service requirements. As I mentioned at the outset, some people are of the opinion that the radiogram format is limited to 25 words. That has to do with the pre-printed radiogram forms from ARRL that have rules, that is, the lines in the text section to make it easy to count groups. It has room for 25 groups. Radio Relay International, RRI, has a radiogram form, and it's got a more modern look. It comes with or without lines for groups, and the form without groups might be more useful. RRI also has a radiogram form that is laid out in a way that specifically means to support easy encapsulation of the ICS 213. While such a form can be helpful, it isn't necessary, as we will see today. So when working as a radio operator at an Incident Command System site, you may be given an ICS 213 for transmission to another site. We'll use an example today of an incident commander sending a message to an area commander. We will use the traditional ARRL radiogram with lines to show that it isn't the form that matters. A radio operator who understands the formats will work easily to move information in a way that supports the operation, most likely such that outside of the communications unit, no one even understands how it's happening. Let's have a look at our outgoing message. It's not a reply, so we have only fields 1 through 7 populated. That's half of the printed form. Before we move the message, we need to make sure that we know where it's going. Here we see it is going to RU Thayer. As we'd expect, both the name and ICS position are specified in the to field. Is that all we need? Well, that depends on the operation. Perhaps the ICS Form 205 showing the communications plan has that information, or maybe it's elsewhere in the incident action plan. In any case, that should envision how the message will be delivered, whether by phone, radio, or runner. We'll need to be sure that a radio operator has the right phone number to call if that's how it's to be delivered, or which radio station should be targeted to send the message. Or if it's a runner, we'll need to get it to someone so that delivery can be made in a reasonable amount of time. For the sake of our example, assume that somewhere in the incident action plan we saw that the area commander is at Ohio EMA and call sign W8SGT. That is critical routing information, so we can add that to the radiogram's to field. Note that we do not change anything that the originator had. We don't take anything away from what the originator had. We only add necessary and only necessary information to what's there to aid in the relay and delivery of the message. The next item that we are looking at is the from part of the ICS 213. Is it enough detail that the recipient knows from whom the message came? What if the recipient wants to send a message back? Is there enough information to allow that? Is it part of the ICS Form 205 communication plan? Is it something that we have included in the from portion of the message? Just like with the recipient in the to field, we might want to add necessary information to aid in origination, relay, and delivery. We do not change or remove anything, but we can add things like a station call sign or other critical information if needed. The originator, the from, in the Form 213, goes to the signature part of the radiogram. This is where we might add the additional routing or delivery information to help the recipient to reply back. Because the radiogram is a general transmission format, it does not have everything that every possible message will need to include. Comparing it with ICS Form 213, we do not see a place for incident name or subject. No problem. We simply put those into the text part of the radiogram. And of course, we need to make sure that the operator at the station making the delivery knows that they're not just to complete the message on a radiogram form from ARRL and be done with it. They need to deliver the message in the form of an ICS 213. The op note before the text portion of the radiogram is where to provide that instruction. Now we can move on to putting the message in the text. We won't go into detail about this now, but you need to know that when you originate a radiogram, you need to make it so that it will work whether you are using digital, CW, or voice modes to relay the message. You don't know the best way for a relay operator to move the message at any particular time. A few simple rules will help you generally to get this right. The letter X, initial X-ray, is used the way that a period as a full stop is used to break thoughts separating sentences. The letter R, initial Romeo, is used as a decimal point. So 146.52 or 146.52 is written 146 Romeo 52. The word query is used in place of the question mark character. This is because the question mark means something in CW procedure. It's the equivalent of I say again. Other punctuation is spelled out in a group by itself, such as dash, which is spelled out DASH in a group. Note that the message in this case is able to fit into 25 groups. If it does not, there is no reason to panic. There's no hard limit on the number of groups. The rule of thumb is that you need to remember how messages are being transmitted. A 2,000 group radiogram is going to take an enormous amount of time to transmit, maybe more time than the information has value. This is where training with the served agency will be helpful. Having them originate realistic messages and then seeing the performance of the system creates a realistic understanding of capability across the board, and that can only help everyone to be ready to operate. The ICS Form 213, of course, has a date and time, which we will want to include in the radiogram. Traditionally, radiograms are going to include their time in Zulu or Greenwich Mean Time, so there is no problem with messages traversing time zones. An ICS operation spanning time zones is much less likely, and the incident is much more likely to be run in local time. Whether using the time as the ICS 213 has it, which is what I recommend, or converting it to and from Zulu time, a process which is more error-prone than you might imagine, we put the time in the time filed field. We then can add the date. Note that on the radiogram we use a standard format. We write a 3-character abbreviation for the month, and then the day of the month afterward. The day does not have a leading 0, and the year is typically not included. Once we have completed this, all of the information from the ICS Form 213 is included in the radiogram. We are now ready to complete the preamble and get the message ready for transmission. The place of origin says where the station originating the radio message can be found. Use city and state with no comma between them. The state should be written as a United States Postal Service 2-letter abbreviation. The check is the count of groups in the text. Note that this is only the text part. It does not refer to either the preamble, the address, or to the signature. In this case, we have 25 groups. The station of origin is the amateur radio station where the radio message has been created. This is where messages about the message will be directed, for example, a notice that the message was delivered. Handling instructions, abbreviated HX, is how we would instruct the delivering operator to confirm delivery. That instruction is Handling Instructions Charlie. In this case, we're using Handling Instructions Bravo 1 because we want the message to be delivered in an hour from the time filed or under. If the message is not delivered in that time, it will be canceled and the sender will be given notice. Use of handling instructions like this is also valuable information for the relay stations so they know whether relay or delivery can wait until the next net or meeting. Precedence is going to help the radio operators to move the messages in the right order. As a general guideline, this allows us to make sure that the circuits are being used effectively and the most urgent and important messages are going first. In a disaster scenario, the last thing we want is for a message like this to take too long to relay because a bunch of birthday greetings of routine precedence were using the circuit. In this case, we're going with priority precedence, written as P. Only emergency is spelled out, though the precedence is voiced emergency, priority, welfare, or routine. And finally, we get to the serial number for the station. Don't get fancy, it just needs to be unique. For anyone to come up with a unique message, they should be able to refer to the message number and a station of origin. I recommend starting at number 1 and just incrementing until you get to a point where you want to start over and that it's far enough away from the last time that you had one that you know how to tell the difference. Some people restart annually, others monthly. There's no strict rule here. Use what works for your station operation and does not confuse other station operators. Now we can move on to the point where we relay, actually transmit the message from station to station. So station KD8TTE has the message and net control has told KD8TTE to send the message to W8OMR. Number, forward, priority, handling instructions, Bravo 1, Kilo Delta 8 Tango Tango Echo 2 5. Jeffersonville, I spell Juliet, Echo, Foxtrot, Foxtrot, Echo, Romeo, Sierra, Oscar, November, Victor, India, Lima, Lima, Echo, Ohio. 1201. Initials Echo, Sierra, Tango. January 29er. Ohio. Initials Echo, Mike, Alpha. Call sign Whiskey 8, Sierra, Golf, Tango. Initial Romeo. Initial Uniform. Thayer, I spell Tango, Hotel, Alpha, Yankee, Echo, Romeo. Area. Commander. Op. Note. Deliver. As. Initials India, Charlie, Sierra. Figures 2, 1, 3. Break. Incident. Name. Demonstration. Figures 2, 2, 0, Fife. Initial X-ray. Figures tree, Fife. Break. Initial India. Initial Mike. Here I spell Hotel, Echo, Echo, Romeo, Echo. Incident. Commander. End. No more. Once the transmission is done, the sending station will add the accounting information showing the station to whom it was transmitted, the date of the message relay, and the time of message relay. Likewise, the receiving station will record the call sign, date, and time to indicate from where the station received the message and when. Thus, both sender and recipient have exactly the same message, word for word and letter for letter. In this case, we're looking at a radiogram record created at station W80MR, which received the message from KD8TTE at 1213, and then transmitted to W8SGT at 1217. The originating station will have only the sent part filled, and the receiving station will have only the received part completed. Relay stations need both to receive and then to transmit, so they will have both received and sent portions addressed when they're finished. Now we're on to delivery, the act of getting the message into the hands of the recipient in a way that the recipient will understand. Remember that our radiogram had an op note that said to deliver as ICS 213. The operator at the delivering station will need to get the ICS form 213 and put the message into that form in accordance with the agency's procedures. That means that punctuation can be returned to normal during the preparation for delivery. Initial India dash figures 7-1 goes back to being written as a single group, I-71. Groups of nothing but initial X-ray to denote break in thought are dropped in favor of a period at the word before them. In this case, note that I put everything in all capital letters. Voice and CW and some digital modes do not distinguish capital and lowercase letters. Since we did not specify during transmission each capital or lowercase letter, I present the message in all caps. In a case like this, it does not look to make much difference. If, on the other hand, we were talking about calories with a lowercase c or calories with a capital C, we could introduce a problem if we chose the wrong one. By putting everything in capital letters, we ensure that the reader gets a clue that we can't tell the difference between capital and lowercase with the message. We might also provide additional detail in preparation for delivery. We do not change or remove anything in the original, we only annotate and add things to help with message origination, relay, and delivery. We can add that additional detail, and if we do, we need to do it without making it look like it's part of the message sent by the message originator. In this case, I show the example of including both the preamble and the message accounting, the received by, up at the top of the form, outside of the parts that might make it look like the message sender included that detail. Not all agencies are necessarily going to want these concerns handled the same way. You'll need to confirm with your agency to see how they prefer to have messages come in and be sorted and stored. And there you have it. Modern emergency communication requires not just getting people to talk to each other beyond the reach of a megaphone, but getting formatted information from one place to another with precision, accuracy, punctuality, and scalability. No one tool is going to provide all of these features for every situation, so it is imperative for communications volunteers to understand what systems are available, how to use them, and when to use them. The National Traffic System, Radio Relay International, and the independent message relay nets provide a critical capability that is different from and complementary to the amateur forces provided in ARIES, races, and similar programs and services. Subscribe to the channel, join our training efforts, and help others to develop their capabilities along with us. This is important and satisfying work. Check the playlists here to find instruction and encouragement to help you, whether your interest is in messaging or radio operations. Let us know your thoughts and suggestions for future work. 7-3 from Bexley, Ohio. This is Radio KD8TTE, out.